In fairness to Broadrick Jones, it's been quite some time since we've led the program with him. I guess that's progress. Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers, presented by FanDuel. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots, Penguins and Pirates. The same place that you found the Steelers versus Bengals coming up Sunday. That's a 1:02 p.m. kickoff at Acrisure Stadium. All eyes, well, I guess it depends on the week, right? It would feel as if all eyes are on the offense again, even though they're playing the Bengals, who completely scorched them a month ago in Cincinnati. But hey, if there's one sliver of consistency to this seesaw season to date, it's been that all conversations eventually boomerang back to Broad. It's just how it is. And until he proves otherwise, it's just how it's going to be. The film from Inglewood, California was not kind to Broad. He has had his peaks of late to go with his valleys. That one was a valley and a half. That one was Death Valley. If you want to stick with the California theme, Broad looked lost at times in pass blocking, and he wasn't as effective as he had been in run blocking. In all, of course, the Chargers got to Aaron Rodgers for 3 sacks. They hit him 5 times. There was a safety. So no one was going to be great. No one was going to grade great. But I'll tell you where the line, the intangible line, is beginning to form. You can pretty much stick it to the left of Zach Frazier, and everything to the right of that is good. Frazier's graded the way he always does. This is a really good football player. Mason McCormick has graded well. Troy Fautanu has been outstanding. I know he was the guy that was out there for the safety, and he's the last non-Rodgers player that you see on the replay, so it looks really bad. Rodgers made that happen almost entirely by himself. Fautanu had already blocked his guy not once, but twice. And then there's Broad over there on the left side without much help. And remember that the help was the only stage of this season where the offensive line looked good, meaning help, Darnell Washington stays in. Help, Spencer Anderson goes off to the right side. This didn't have any of that because Isaac Seumalo was out with an injury. By the way, Isaac, limited participant in practice yesterday, trying to come back from the pec injury. And Broad, as long as we're headlining him here, didn't practice at all because of a groin injury. Nonetheless, I digress, because he sure does matter, at least toward the 2025 season. Overall, 518 snaps, taken only 1 penalty. That's good. You'll recall that he had a serious spate of penalties in 2024. He's given up 6 sacks. Not so good. He's allowed 21 pressures on the quarterback. That has him in the bottom third of the league. And he's generally viewed by most of the more prominent grading services as a guy who's bottom 10, bottom 15 in the league among tackles. That tends not to be divvied up between left and right. They're just tackles. Aaron Rodgers was asked after practice yesterday his thoughts on Broad's recent performances.
Well, I don't care, who's playing left tackle or right tackle. It's always nice to give those guys some chip help from time to time. So, maybe we help those guys out on the road. At home with our cadence, you expect the defense to not be able to get the same kind of jump off the ball. But, I'm proud of the way Broadrick has played the last 7-8 games. I think he's played really solid.
And that's fair, and you have to throw in the obligatory, of course he has to say that since he's the quarterback and that guy is protecting or supposed to protect his blind side and all else. But you'll notice, too, that Rodgers kind of sneaks into his assessment there that it's okay for those guys to get some chipping help or some doubling. And that kind of very easily could be interpreted as Rodgers saying, I sure liked how we had it going in Dublin, because that was when they had almost nothing but 6-man fronts, sometimes 7-man fronts. And the reason that I bring up any of this today is to try to make some sense of this vital area, because one of the things that went really, really, really wrong for the Steelers offensively in Inglewood was that nothing happened in which Rodgers was operating within a pocket, looking around, choosing his options. None of that. None of that. None of that came close to happening, actually. Not even on a single series. So you want to try to find answers. First way to do that is to identify the problems. My initial thought was, it's probably Brod. It's probably him. The other guys are doing great and Brod's not. Well, it was in that game to an extent. But when you're looking to fix this offense, whether it's for this weekend against this terrible, terrible defense they're going to be facing, or into the games that follow, my first thought is that you have to put Humpty Dumpty back together again behind the line. That means Rodgers needs to regain his own internal confidence behind that line. Stop trying to panic and run out of there. Stop whatever it was that he'd hoped to do on that safety. And probably the best way to achieve that is to try something along the lines of what succeeded in Dublin against the Vikings, both on the ground and in the air. If that means not having as many, wide receivers on the field, who's going to miss them with how they played out in Inglewood? You could just go with DK Metcalf and a whole bunch of other bigs, hand the ball to Jalen Warren and see what else materializes, but do it from a big posture. You negate or at least diminish a lot of your shortcomings while also putting yourself in a position, and here I go with this phrasing again, to start establishing a real offensive identity. If that means you don't put up 40 or 45 or 50 against the Bengals because you're not necessarily trying to just gash them downfield because it's way too easy, that's fine. That's fine. Hold on to the football. Start figuring out who you are. Start behaving like it. I thought they'd kind of figured that out. In Dublin, they apparently didn't. And along the way, as far as Brod is concerned, continue to try to make sure you're getting the best out of his talent and his potential. And for me, that does mean utilizing Washington in a way that maybe he doesn't go out for passes as often, but he does it just enough to ensure that the threat of him going out for passes remains real. It's funny, this isn't like the sexiest subject you can bring up. And I get that. I know that going in. I also know that it's more important than the stuff that'll grab the attention of, say, the more casual football fan. Because this is where these games are being won and lost from the offensive perspective. When we come back, J1Q. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George is a personal injury law firm in Western Pennsylvania that represents injured people in automobile accidents, workers' compensation cases, and medical malpractice claims. The attorneys at Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George pride themselves in doing what they say they're going to do. It's important to them that when they make you a promise, they keep that promise. And this law firm has been keeping promises for over 80 years. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George has been AV rated. That's the highest rating a law firm can receive for legal ability and ethics. And the lawyers at the firm have been designated super lawyers, that's a real thing, for over 15 years. Rare combination there. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George has offices in Cranberry, Newcastle, Beaver Falls, Butler, and Elwood City. Learn more about them at lgkg.com or by calling 888-842-5454. Again, that's 888-842-5454. Football season's finally here. Time to check out the latest odds, futures, and win totals on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Think the Steelers are headed to the Super Bowl? Lock in your bets today. Whatever your game, FanDuel Sportsbook delivers the latest lines, futures, and specials so you can join in on all the action. For those of you who are doing real work in construction, in a warehouse, if you're a mechanic, you want reliable, comfortable gear to help you perform well on the job. Brunt Workwear's got you. They've got waterproof boots, safety toe, soft toe, pull-on, lace-up, whatever you need. You can wear them to work, and if they're not right for you, send them back. I don't know of any other brand doing that. Brunt was tired of the workwear brands out there cutting corners. You work too hard to be stuck in uncomfortable boots that don't hold up. So they built something better. Boots that are insanely comfortable and built for any job site. For a limited time, our listeners get $10 off. Just head to bruntworkwear.com. Use the code DK Sports and you're good to go. After you order, they'll ask you where you heard about Brunt. Do us a favor here at DK Pittsburgh Sports and tell them it was from this show. Today's J1Q comes from Corey out in Hershey. And Corey says, after some nice words which are appreciated, DK, I'm not looking to lay blame here, but rather to understand it more clearly. Is the lack of running the ball a result of Aaron Rodgers checking out of runs or Arthur Smith calling more passes than runs? The rationale for either would be nice to know. Corey, it's my understanding that it's a little bit of both, but it's also being a little bit too beholden to the script entering the game. The classic example of that, and I don't mean classic in a good way, came the other night in Inglewood when you saw the Steelers open a series in the shadow of their own goalpost. And there's Caleb Johnson out there. You're going, what? What are you doing here? What is that? Never mind, where's Jalen? Where's Kenny Gainwell? Not that I don't believe in Johnson or his potential in the longer run, but that just made no sense in the context of that football game, in the context of this football season. It really didn't. So it was almost as if there was a plan that this series was going to go to so-and-so, and that series was going to go to so-and-so, and this one is when Johnson was supposed to come in. Come on. That one you don't have to wonder. That one is not Rodgers bringing the running back onto the field with him. Smith will have his session, which is weekly and only once a week, a little bit later today, and I have no doubt that this will be subject number one in that particular room. So maybe we'll learn some more from him. Rodgers had his weekly session yesterday, and he is not going to discuss what it is that he calls or checks out of at the line, not routinely anyway. Rodgers did, however, reiterate even more emphatically that he would like to see Jalen involved on first and second downs, and he even said that he wouldn't mind having Jalen out there in third downs, as good as Gainwell has been at times in those situations. So when the quarterback says it twice in public, and then, unless I'm grossly misreading these signals from Rodgers, the quarterback also suggests that he wouldn't mind getting a little bit of additional protection on the edges. All of this tells me, actually screams to me, that this team's got to get big. Not to beat the Bengals, but to be its best self foundationally, to be its best self heading into the games that'll follow. That doesn't mean I'm taking the Bengals lightly. I was out there in Cincinnati and covered that, saw it with my own eyes. It does mean that I believe the Steelers' offense can put up a large volume of points doing it either way. So why not do it the way that'll benefit them the most over the longer haul? Get big, get nasty, push people back, stop trying to bring life to concepts that have already died. Try instead to pound away at the ones that you're fairly confident will work given the personnel at hand. So who calls that? Who's giving the orders and who's listening? And to what degree is Mike Tomlin involved? All of that stuff needs to be tossed out the window. I don't mean by us. We can talk about whatever we want. I mean internally. All of their focus needs to be on forming that identity, on finding out who they are, and doing that, I believe, through the bigs. I appreciate the question, Corey. I appreciate hearing from everybody who listens to Daily Shot of Steelers, we will have a double shot today at 4 p.m. Eastern, the same place you found this. If you're interested in all of our Steelers coverage, and it's really, really comprehensive, you can only find that on our one-of-a-kind app. That's the DK Pittsburgh Sports app. You can download it for free on the App Store, Google Play. You'll have an easy time finding it. If you don't like what you see, meaning lots of ads, you can't comment, other annoyances, I would be delighted myself to hook you up with a massive discount on the premium level. It's really cheap. You won't be disappointed by it. Email me, dk@dkpittsburghsports.com, and I'll take care of you, and I'll do it today. But hey, yeah, let's hook up at 4, all right?